ceiling, and I really wish I bought it now, but I did not get it. But it was on the ground, and I had said something about, hey, can I buy that? And they were like, the guy, you could tell he was like, look, man, I don't really care. Like, just do whatever you want. And I did buy it, but I should have pushed further for that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. My toy story like that was we had Lionel Play World here in Forest Park, Georgia, and the way this one sat was there was a little bit, just the parking lot wasn't really flat for whatever reason. So when you were driving in, you kind of went over a hump, and like it always looked like there was no cars, and then it's just this little bit of a hump, and you come over it, and then you'd see the cars or whatever. So we begged my parents, let's go to Lionel Play World because we were like at one of the warehouse clubs over there or something, and so we started coming over that hump, and there's no cars, and the building's boarded up. And we had forgotten that it had gone out of business like 6 months earlier. So, like, we all laughed. Oh, look, it's closed. And then it's like we always did every single time. And then, no, it was legitimately closed, and we were heartbroken. So, and now it's a United rental place.
More depressing toy stories. No pun intended. The Toys R Us, that's what makes the Toys R Us in South Carolina that much more sad. At least the last time I checked, because I haven't lived there in a year or so. It like no one was doing anything with the building, so it still looked like a Toys R Us.
Yeah.
It just, the sign was gone and everything, so it just made it that much more sad. Like if somebody would have bought it and turned it into a furniture store, I think I would have been a little less sad about it. But to drive by and to still see the colorful lines on the side of the building, I was just like, ooh, they got to do something with that.
No, I totally get it. With the one we went to the most, so as an adult, was over in Douglasville, and I took some pictures of it recently. But it's going to be a gym finally, but it's been sitting there the same way. So.
And you've got above the Daredevil and above the Spider-Man, you've got the Blue Bloods, which hit me right in the heart as a massive Blue Bloods fan. Did you? What do you think? What do you think here? I'm thinking this is '96.
It was something like that, and I will tell you that I bought these on eBay. These were not purchased when they came out. I know for a fact that I came back and bought these later because I saw them and thought they were really cool. All the other ones of those old San Francisco toy maker WCW figures I bought at the time, but that was the only ones I specifically remember that I definitely bought like as a purchase later on.
As an adult with the internet.
Yes, exactly.
Now, what makes me laugh about that is the card, the packaging on this set is probably, it's not bad, but it's probably like it's a little bent at the top right.
Yeah.
And I was thinking like, oh, like this one, you didn't do as good of a job taking care of this one, but of course you bought it years later, so that's why it's in the shape that it's in.
Yeah, probably that. And we'll get to my favorite one here in just a little bit, but there was another 2-pack that I was supremely excited to see. Looked like it was still in good shape. Well, when we get there, I will point that one out, of course.
Yeah, well, from here on out, it's pretty much all the stuff that, at this point, I think I started tweeting out that I wanted to fight you.
Yes.
And every time you tweeted something, I just said I want to fight you, and I think it slowly the letters got more capitalized as the tweets went on. But you've got this Steve Austin in the pack. I believe this is the first Stone Cold Steve Austin action figure.
Let me see. There was a Series 4. This was, I think, maybe the second one, or
the second
in the next series or something like that. Because let me look at these pictures real quick. I think there's one that came out. Series 4 came out with Farouk. Yes. So there's a WWF Bad Boys in like one of the next tweets. That's the first time I remember seeing a Stone Cold Steve Austin figure. I'm not saying it's the first one, but I think I remember that being the first time I get my hands on one. And I was excited about that set because it was going to be him and Farouk. And I'm a huge Ron Simmons fan, so I wanted that. Honestly, on the topic of these Jakks WWF figures, I totally forgot I had this many of them. In packaging, at least.
No, and these are the figures that slightly predate me, but because I had an older brother, any of the like real quote-unquote action figures that I had that were actually wrestling action figures, they were pretty much these Jakks. And my fondest memory of them and what really made me smile was the WWF logo that's behind Steve is, of course, a stand. and we didn't have a lot of weapons or anything, so the stands that we did have, those were our chairs.
Nice.
So that made me laugh. And I'm also just getting a little annoyed looking at the packaging here because I can go buy an action figure right now in a store. Well, no, I can't. But if and
When you're allowed to leave the house again.
right, when that happens, I can go, and the packaging isn't in this good of condition. So it just blows my mind that this looks. It's
Yeah.
just insane the condition that it's in.
And I was very pleased. I think when we get to them, the ECW figures, for whatever reason, did not tolerate the heat as well. Because they went in the boxes looking just as good as these, but the bubble, the plastic bubble on them looks a lot worse for whatever reason.
Well, what are you gonna do?
Which
That's
kind of
the
a bummer, but I was pretty lucky. It turned out almost everything we pulled out looked like it was in pretty good shape still.
yeah, and then you go to the tweet below that, and you just have a ton of guys. And let's see here. I'm gonna try to go through and see if there's anything that jumps out at me. This was when I started noticing because you had some loose figures too. Like you have like probably 4 or 5 Canes from this particular era. So were you just collecting all the Canes that you could get?
Yeah, basically, if I liked a guy, I was buying a bunch of them. And which is funny because your perspective changed on that, especially when you've got like real world responsibilities and stuff. Someone asked me like in one of the pictures where like there's some Roman Reigns figures. It said, "Is this all the Roman Reigns figures they've made?" And it's like 8 or whatever. I said, "No, I've passed on more than I've bought, even though I have 7 to 10 of them or whatever." You know, so like I know for a fact I don't have all of them, and I'm not trying to get all of them, but I do like having a variety. The Roman Reigns ones are tough for me because they'll change the head sculpt, or they'll do one a different color on the vest or whatever, and then it's like, I really like the red vest. I better get that one.
Yeah, yeah, and this point and the tweets too, I just get a little overwhelmed, and the little kid in me comes back because I don't even really know where to start here. You have the Legion of Doom tag team set with the bone crunching action in the top right. I do remember those were 2 guys that we had as a kid, and specifically the shoulder pads. Just that was really over for me for some reason. I thought the shoulder pads were the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, I did too. And it's funny how my opinions changed on that. As a kid, I thought the shoulder pads the coolest thing ever. Watching footage now, if you watch them before they had the shoulder pads, it was way cooler watching them rush the ring, slide in, and just start beating on people and not have to fiddle with the stupid shoulder pads. You know what I mean?
That's also not to get too into how I watch wrestling or how I critique wrestling. That's also something I try to keep in mind is when someone wears or does something that I'm like, that doesn't really work for me. I have to remember that somewhere there's a 10-year-old in the audience that thinks it's the coolest thing in the world.
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, because watching them have to slowly get in the ring, with the spikes not hitting the ropes and all this. Because you watch that old like Saturday night stuff, and it was awesome watching them. Like that music hit, and of course it was Iron Man by Black Sabbath, and then next thing you know they're sliding under the bottom rope, and the next thing you know those dudes are getting tossed around and clubbed to death. It was awesome.
Yeah, and you've got a WCW Sting right beside the DDP too, which is that or are those both the first sets of those figures?
I'm not sure.
I think that
for whatever
page
reason,
I can't remember who made it. Is that California? What's the name of the company?
This was Toy Biz at this point. Okay.
Yeah.
So the Sting next to the DDP to me is probably one of the best Sting figures ever made. It was not from the same exact series. Like the same line but different series. This Slam and Crunch was a later series. That Conan was one of those.
Yeah, I can see that now with the Wolfpack logo.
Yeah. And so the Page and the Scott Halls, which I had one of each because I think they did red and they did white. Those were from the very first line of Toy Biz figures.
Yeah,
which
that's
WCW Toy Biz. Like as much as I like those bigger rubbery ones, the old San Francisco Toy Maker ones. When they announced that they were making that Toy Biz was going to make them, I was fired up about them, and they definitely did not let me down. So.
No, I remember weird story. They would have had to have been Toy Biz, and I'm trying to see if you have. I got a Toy Biz Hogan and a Toy Biz Savage, and I remember the Hogan came with a spray paint can.
Oh, nice.
And I got them. I we were playing baseball in the yard, and I slid into third, which was a swing, and I busted my face open. So we had to go to the hospital, and I had to get stitches and everything. And my thing of like, hey, if you handle this, and you don't go crazy, and you just stay calm, we'll take you to Walmart and you can get some toys. And those were the first action figures that I got that were quote unquote mine. That
Nice.
I physically went to the store and purchased them. So
I love it.
seeing those older WCW figures kind of took me and again reminded me of a memory that I had forgotten.
It also reminds me of what a boomer I am, comparatively speaking.
No, yeah, I'm man. If that's probably when did those come out? 98,
Yes, that's a pretty good guess. It's
98,
97, 98.
99. I'm 5.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm 21 in 99, so a
yeah. So
little bit. I'm just a
I'm a
touch over than
screaming
you, pal.
5-year-old that they're trying to calm down. But
Yeah,
and then you've got what I think is if you were going to say, hey, what's one thing in here that you would want to put some money on, or I'll give you the first, it would be this triple threat Mick Foley set.
yeah,
I think it's probably my favorite thing that you have.
yeah. And that's one of those things at the time. Like not that I don't like Mick Foley, but like I probably don't like him the way I did at the time, just in the sense that he was such a phenomenon. He was kind of like a Daniel Bryan-esque underdog at that time, and so like everything Foley did was just like golden to me back then. So like getting a three faces of Foley, triple threat, that was like a no-brainer. You know, great.
You've got the three Austins, which is just crazy.
Yeah,
I can't recall too many sets where you've got three or more guys and they're all the same guy.
yeah. The whole hook being you get different T-shirts, and my opinion on those kind of shirts has changed over the years. Like I like a hard plastic shirt typically, but if they're pinned right, I don't mind those fabric shirts. So like in the packaging, sometimes like I notice on that Shield 3-pack they have the one when they the I'm sorry, not the one from Walmart, but there was a Shield 3-pack that had the cardboard front that you could drop down. They look cool with the fabric shirts because they pin them on correctly instead of just like loosely hanging on them. So I don't mind them so bad there.
Then you've got the special edition here with Austin, Brett, and Ahmed, and then generic referee, which the picture of the referee on the box is what really makes me laugh. He's
Yeah,
just kind of
I
holding
remember
up
always.
his.
Yeah, I always remember thinking it was like Harvey Whippleman, and I don't know if it is or not. And I can't see it well enough to tell you, but I always remember thinking that he kind of looked like that guy that played Downtown Bruno from Memphis, and he was Harvey
Mm-hmm.
Whippleman in the
Mm-hmm.
WWF. So
Yeah, no. If I had to guess, if they even scanned anyone at all, it probably was an employee
yeah,
that they scanned. But the Bad Blood set is also it's a close second for me. With Kane, Taker, Paul Bearer, and Austin. Now Undertaker's face is a little weird, but
yeah, and they made it like almost like he had a painted like. It doesn't look like they're doing a pale complexion. They almost painted it. The figure looks like he painted his face like Sting, and I don't know if that was what they were going for, or it was just a poor execution, or what. So
that being said, he's got tattoos, which was kind of rare at that time, and then
yeah,
his eyes are rolled back, which is kind of cool.
yeah, absolutely.
And then you've got these cups. Now, do you know where you got these cups from?
Got them at Walmart. Got those at Walmart, and they all came with a shirt like that. Whatever logo's on the outside of the mug,
Mm.
there was a shirt in there with that. And I still have the shirts. I've seen the Macho Man one recently, but I have all three of those shirts still.
They were just in the cup.
Yeah, yes. They bundled the shirts, and you'd pick the size you needed, and you grab that mug. Those mugs never got used. They just bought them to look at. And the Macho Man one, I know I wore to a couple of NWA Wildside shows up in Cornelia because I remember Lulu. He was one of the security guys. He said, "Nice shirt, man." So I specifically remember wearing that one up there because I just thought it was a cool shirt. I was on a big Macho Man kick at the time because
I think
WCW Macho Man was awesome. No lie.
I think it was 7-Eleven around like 2002, 2003 did like Slurpee cups, and there was like I think Jericho might have had one.
Yeah.
They did a segment with Booker T and Goldust, and he was mad that he didn't have a cup. But I had all of those cups, but I do not know where they are. I imagine they got thrown away. I
You're
also
breaking
would
my
have been
heart, man.
I would have been like 9 or 10, so I probably was using them all the time. And my mom was like, "All right, we're gonna throw these away."
Ugh, yeah, it's rough.
Yeah.
One advantage I had over a lot of kids was my dad's a collector, so he understood and appreciated collecting, so he never really bothered me about it.
No, at this point in time, my family hated professional wrestling, and they wanted me to be into just about anything else. So by the time I was about 10, they were like, "Please find something else." So
They might have done.
my brother would have been about 16, 17 too, so he was out.
Yeah, they might have done you a favor if they could have gotten you away from it, man.
Yeah, I know.
No,
What are
I
we gonna
kid, I
do?
kid.
What are we gonna do? Now they don't mess with me as much too much about it.
Yeah,
That-
they accept you for who you are in that regard.
yeah, I remember I was either watching wrestling or playing a video game or something, and my dad was like, "You need to come out here and it was either help him with yard work or learn how to change the oil or something stupid." Uh, and I didn't do it or whatever. And he was like, "Well, you're gonna need to know how to do this." And of course, I married Caitlin, who did landscaping for a few years
Yeah,
when we were still dating and can change the oil in a
yeah.
car. If we got a flat tire like a year or so ago, she got out and changed it.
There's
So,
there's
uh,
nothing she can't do, right? So
right. So
you're
I
good.
looked at him one day and was like, "You were saying
Yeah, it's like the
we
old
all have our
thing.
strategies."
That's like the old joke about, you won't always have a calculator on you. Well, yeah, you will, because, your teachers may not have even told you that. We heard that all the time in high school.
Oh
You're
no,
not always going to have a calculator. Well, guess what? I've always got a calculator.
yeah, you need to know how to spell these words.
No, I do not. I got a phone.
Yeah, I have literally not handwritten anything in a very long time, so I'm cool. Now this Austin crunching buddies is just a weird thing that you kind of have to get when you're
Yeah.
an adult and the Austin
And
rave is happening.
and again, I have like, just bizarre because like I don't even know that I think it's that cool, but I had to have it. But again, Austin was a complete phenomenon at that
That's
time.
what I'm saying. Like you just almost have to.
Yeah,
It's one of those things too to where I can vaguely remember, kind of 98, 99, but it's
sure.
one of those things where when you're a wrestling fan and you've always been a wrestling fan and then it just randomly gets kind of hot and you have access to all of this stuff because everyone's trying to make money off of wrestling, you kind of are forced to buy it all.
Yeah, and that's the thing, it went from like there being a trickle of like wrestling merchandise, basically you had the LJN figures. When I was a kid, all you had was like the LJN figures is what it felt like. And then, those went away and then they had the Hasbro figures. And I remember going to, I don't remember if it was specifically Toys R Us, but going somewhere, didn't even know they were coming out. Like, it's not like I had the internet tell you, hey, watch for this series of toys. I don't remember seeing ads for when we walk into the place and they've got those little Hasbro figures. And I was like, oh man, those are awesome. And I got a Jake the Snake because he was my favorite guy in that series, like because he's one of my favorite wrestlers ever anyway. So got a Jake the Snake, and then then that finally died off, and then we didn't have figures for a while. Then you had the bone crunching action ones with Jacks, which they weren't great figures in that regard. But then that's as the boom's happening, and all of a sudden it's like you can go to the mall and you can buy a wrestling shirt, which I couldn't do that when I was a kid. You didn't see a wrestling shirt in the mall unless you went to a show. You weren't getting a wrestling shirt. It's like you said, it's kind of crazy how like things were changed over my lifetime as a wrestling fan as far as accessibility of like the merchandise and whatnot.
And that's what I'm saying. When it gets to like that and you've essentially been an addict without any access to anything, and then you can just go to the mall and get wrestling stuff. You kind of
Yeah,
are. It's almost wrong if you don't buy all of it.
yeah. It was very strange. I remember like went to the Pro Image at South Lake Mall, which is in Morrow, which was over by my college, and the guy that was either the manager or the owner there claimed he played football with Big Cat Ernie Ladd at I think Ernie Ladd played at Grambling State. I don't know the guy's name. Never thought to ask what his name was, so I can't verify that. But he claims he played football with Ernie Ladd, and he was a standard you know like Champ Sports type place, but they started bringing in wrestling shirts, and like for him like the Austin stuff sold very well, and then he got like a Big Boss Man shirt and a WCW the Giant shirt. He goes, yeah, this stuff's not selling as well as that other stuff. It's like, well, Austin's like the hottest thing in
He's
wrestling right now.
the
That's so
hot.
different.
He's one of the hottest things in pop culture.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, that's when you start getting. I
Precisely.
I can remember going into CVS and with the Halloween costumes, buying a Goldberg costume in like '99.
Yeah,
And like,
absolutely.
I don't know that if you went to Walmart right now and went to the Halloween costumes when it was Halloween and you could go to a Walmart, you would see a wrestling costume there. I feel like that's something you'd have to get from WWE directly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, this belt, not the one that has Sting on it, the one that we've already talked about, but the one
Yeah.
above it. What's that about?
Okay, so we were little kids. We had a wrestling federation in our neighborhood. Have you ever seen those little muscle figures? WWE's released like knockoffs of them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what this was. In that space there was a clear plastic container where you're supposed to put 3 or 4 muscle figures in it, and you could wear them on your belt. So we ripped the container off because we didn't want that. But that was the best wrestling championship belt we could get a hold of back when we were kids. So that was our title for our promotion. And we had like real brilliant stuff like a reverse battle royal where like we were on Norco's back porch and you only won by escaping. So what did everybody do? They just sprinted to jump over the rail, because it was like one floor. It was on the ground floor. So it's like we didn't think about this, like how that made no sense because like we had no reason to fight at that point because like all we had to do was jump over the rail. So we all jumped over the rail. So I think we came up with something else after that. We had to give it some rules because like it was basically a tie. Everybody jumped off the thing at the same time. So, but
As dumb as that idea is, I imagine it has been done.
reverse battle royals absolutely have been like all sorts of weird, getting into the ring, then getting thrown out. But like
No, I'm saying exactly the way that you guys drew it up.
yeah, no
Having
telling.
having seen a lot of indie wrestling in my younger days, there were not too many dumb ideas that I didn't see at
Okay.
least attempted.
Now, I don't want to get way off topic, but the Scenic City out of Chattanooga, AC Mack won their Rumble in a way that I had always wanted to see, and everybody's kicked around. I didn't come up with other guys had mentioned. I was like, oh my gosh, that's got to happen. It was down to 2 men. They eliminated each other, and number 30 entered to an empty ring. And I was like, I cannot believe that happened. That's incredible. And it really
No,
was incredible.
no,
So,
that's a great idea. You got to have the perfect number 30, but as long as that box
oh,
is checked.
he strolled out there as the 2 guys were eliminating each other. They knocked each other out simultaneously, and all he had to do was slide under the bottom rope to win the battle royal. It was brilliant. It was awesome. Loved it.
Now, at this point, you were talking about your ECW figures. I'm looking at them, and I wonder if I don't know. They still look great to me. So like I'm, I
Yeah, they were just the plastic on like the Dreamer and I think Devon was just a little. It had darkened for whatever reason. I don't know what the deal is. Like, it wasn't so bad that I thought, oh, I need to take them out of here and might as well have them loose or anything. But it was just they didn't hold up. The heat and humidity was not kind to those for whatever reason.
also love that we got another Kane up there.
Oh yeah, you can't have enough. He's very cool looking.
No,
That's what my son said. He's like he was a cool looking. He was just cool looking. With that
yeah, I
version of Kane.
remember Kane telling a story about the idea for the character in his head, and then they showed him the outfit, and he was like, "This is the exact opposite of what I had in mind." I was thinking something a little bit more toned down, and Vince kind of sold him on the idea that like merchandise, man, like we're
Yeah,
gonna sell a lot of this.
yeah, and they did. Kane was very cool. I
No,
like
you've
Kane.
got just kind of the basis of a lot of rings in this next one.
Yeah,
The big LJN at the bottom makes me happy because that was the ring that I had.
yeah. Me and Dad used to play Battle Royal. In that we would take those LJN figures and drop them. This was his idea. We'd drop them from about a foot up, and most of the time they'd bounce out. So we'd rotate through the whole roster until you've eliminated everybody, and that person won the battle royal. That's how we played battle royal.
I like that ring a lot because from a scale standpoint, it was a little bit more accurate
Yeah,
than a lot of the rings that were coming out with the toys that I had. So that was the big and that was of course a hand me down that someone they knew I liked wrestling and they used to like wrestling 10 years
sure.
ago, so they gave me that, and I didn't realize at the time that I had a ring that was
Yeah,
and
yeah.
of course I gave it away because I'm a moron.
Yeah. Well,
Now I feel like I'm missing because I know you tweeted out some pictures of like the TV guides and stuff.
I think those are down thread a little bit.
Because
I
yeah,
got
you've got a box here of like some loose figures. And
Yeah.
that's when I noticed that you had like maybe 3 of those Hogans,
Yeah.
the vibrating Hogans.
Now, let's see. Let's take a look here. I'm trying to find this. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Again, and I don't know if it was like one of those deals where somebody else had bought some too, and then I bought them off of them type deal. I remember eBaying to get that big boss man. Are you looking at the picture with the big Lex Luger?
Hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I remember eBaying to get that big boss man, and I also got a shirt with it, which I wore to an action show last year or year before. Let's see. And then, like I said, this next thing, not to move us ahead too fast, but this next thing is where I decided to lay out all these WCW figures I had, including the guy who, did the bad thing in 2007. And
Yeah, you
I was
gotta.
in some of those. Now, same company that did the ECW figures, by the way. Some of that bubble, it's almost like there was some imperfection in some of the plastic, because some of their bubbles, as you see, are really dark, and I don't know why. Some are clear, some really got dark over time. But I love these WCW Toy Biz figures, and I was telling my wife earlier today, I'm going to take down some of my Jack stuff that's in the bonus room and put these in their place. I'd rather have these displayed than some of those random Jax figures I have.
No,
But
I had the Scott Steiner, and I might have had the Bret Hart. I had a better Bret Hart that I used.
yeah,
But because I had a couple Bretts, and I'm pretty sure I had that one. But I definitely had that Scott Steiner, and he was a terror in the figure fed back in the
oh
day.
yeah, I bet. And as a guy from our corner of wrestling Twitter said, you had the Howard Stern Bret Hart, and I looked at it, I was like, that does look like Howard Stern.
Oh yeah, that is
It looks more
bad.
like Howard Stern than it does Bret Hart.
To be fair, though, to the people who made this particular figure, I feel like Brett's a really difficult person to.
Capture.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I haven't really seen a Bret Hart figure, and I've been like, yeah, they did it. That's it. I think it's the hair. It's the
yeah,
wet, stringy hair. It's just something about the way that he sports it. It just doesn't look good.
yeah. And I was furious with Mattel because they released that Ultimate Bret Hart, and they gave us 3 head sculpts, and none of them had them slicked back. So I passed on that figure. They all had hair in his face. I don't know why. Like
Yeah,
you're gonna put 3 different heads in there, and you don't do one classic slicked back hairstyle. I don't get it. But
Now, do you have anything else in here that you want to go over?
yeah, the one thing I was gonna mention was I was ultra relieved to see my Harlem Heat 2-pack was in good shape. That was the biggest thing for me. Like that specific 2-pack, I was hoping to find looked like it was still in good shape, and was very relieved that it was. That and that Bloods one. So that was
Yeah,
it.
and
It
then the purple flare.
yeah.
That's we have a bit on our Patreon WCW podcast that you can tell when Ric Flair is excited about something because he wears the purple. I
Nice.
feel like if he's not wearing the purple, I feel like he kind of goes out there and does his thing and gets it over with. But he's got the purple on. He's probably gonna bleed at some point. It's and the purple's my favorite color too. So I'm always excited when Flair comes out and he's got the purple trunks on and the knee pads and the boots.
Yeah, I like that. And I bought another one of these figures and opened it and put the belt that comes with I don't see him in the picture here, but the belt that came with Hogan. And that's one figure that I think has been misplaced. Like I don't know where it was. I thought I knew where it was. It's been gone for a long time, so kind of bummed out about that because I had a good Ric Flair with the big gold from that line, but they're gone, gone, gone. So
And you've got this one picture too up here where it's just kind of a collection of all the WWF guys, and it's got Ahmed at the bottom and Rock at the bottom, right next to
mhm,
Mark Henry.
yeah,
This is a pretty solid collection here as well. And you got a few Bendums.
yeah. I only bought Farouk and Stone Cold. I mentioned earlier I was big fans of those guys. Those are the only 2 Bendums I bought. I don't like Bendums in general, but I like those guys enough that I went ahead and bought their Bendums.
I think that's gonna be my thing. I think I'm gonna try to get because the Bendums are so weird, and I feel like they're not that hard to find. I think I'm gonna just get all the Bendums.
I did get they WWE, they put out some small. I'll send you a picture of them. They put out some small Bendum type things they're making for like comic book properties and everything. Well, they made WWE ones, and I bought them at Five Below, and so I have a Roman Reigns one. It's pretty cool looking, and it's
No,
very stylized.
that's cool. Yeah, the ones the victims from back in the day. I showed Caitlin. I was like, oh, I'm gonna start collecting these, and she looked at a couple of them, and she was like, no, these are terrifying. Please don't bring them
Yeah,
into our home.
don't
But
want those.
yeah, no, it's got to be done. You tweeted out this picture where we were making fun of you about all the heads next to Al Snow. And my
Yes,
one question is the guy next to Hogan Tajiri.
yes.
Okay, now what? I've never seen this Tajiri before, so I'm interested.
This
In
that is a ECW Tajiri because I did
okay,
not keep all my ECW ones in the packaging. So I have and I definitely have Tajiri and I have Taz. But so what happened here is, I mentioned I have some loose collections that's in the bonus room that I haven't taken pictures of yet. Apparently this Tajiri didn't make it into that box. Like I honestly didn't know that I had this many. I thought all my loose figures, like newer loose figures, were all in the bonus room. Well, some of them were out in the garage apparently because that's what I took pictures of. But I have some loose ones in the bonus room that I'm gonna go back and get pictures of. So I know Taz from that line was there, but that's why that Tajiri looks so odd. That's a
is
ECW one.
is this Raven in the top right hand corner an ECW figure too?
That is either a WCW or WWE Raven, but it is Raven. That
And he's
no, that I'm sorry, you are correct. I think that is an ECW Raven.
it just looks weird.
Yeah,
The body to me. I did not. The ECW figures were not a thing in my household. What makes me laugh is you have the "Don't Take Me Off"
yeah,
Jeff Jarrett next to the Al Snow that got pulled from the shelves.
yep,
So kind of two weird little.
yeah. And that Raven, it's funny because I mentioned that I think I have when I photograph the rest of the loose collection, I think I have the WCW Raven that looks pretty much like that, and the WWE Raven, which looks pretty much like that. I basically got three different iterations of that figure.
And then going through your pictures, I just scrolled up and I saw all the loose starting lineup baseball
Yeah,
guys. I was trying to see if you had the King Griffey Jr. that I had. I'm pretty
I
sure
don't think I did. I don't believe if I had a Ken Griffey Jr., it's in the packaging.
I could be crazy, but I'm pretty sure the King Griffey Jr. came with a black baseball bat. And I may be wrong on that because you don't have anyone that has a black baseball bat. So that makes
Yeah.
me think that I just painted it.
So that starting lineup situation, me and Norco had the competition about who could collect more. So at some point I quit opening them. And so I didn't photograph a lot of them, but I have some baseball starting lineups that are unopened. And then I had four that I got at a garage sale. It was like Frank Thomas, like recently got. It was like a Frank Thomas, a Ken Griffey Jr., and I can't remember who else. Like a later one, not like the first Griffey or anything like that,
Hmm.
that are still in packaging. But this was all my loose ones that I opened first. And I don't think we put it up there. We didn't put the other disembodied head up there, but uh, I had
All
a
right,
Phillies player. The body just completely crumbled. So
I'm doing some googling here, and I have found the King Griffey Jr. starting lineup, and he does have a black baseball bat. So I'm not insane, but that is obviously I needed a baseball bat for my
yeah,
Sting, and I
nice.
saw him in the store, and I was like, all right, that's what we're doing.
I
But
like it. I respect it.
no, I had to get creative. I remember a big issue in our house one day was I had purchased a Barbie that had a buggy because I needed a buggy for Raven. Shopping cart for anyone
Yeah,
who's not from the South,
the
and
plunder.
that was a situation for a few minutes.
I respect it.
Yeah, and we had
Okay.
a bird cage too. That was our cage.
I like that. Very clever.
So very creative with the stuff. But yeah, man, this is a pretty incredible collection, and I'm really excited because it sounds like you might have some more stuff stowed
Yeah.
away in other places.
Yeah. I think I must have more at mom and dad's, and then I've definitely got more loose stuff I just didn't photograph yet. So
Well,
we'll get that
as
up
soon
there.
as you get the pictures, man, we'll go through it again.
That sounds good. So this is a real just informal two buddies talking here, but I know you mentioned your Patreon. I think I said that right. Would you like to talk about your project that you worked there with your wife real quick?
Yeah, man, we've been doing the Rumble Ramble thing for about 5 years now, and it's kind of been a little bit of everything from the Twitter account to, the website. We did a few months there where we kind of really took the website serious just to see what that would be like. And we've been doing some podcasts, but we have a Patreon where we cover, we have two Patreon exclusive podcasts. One's called Operation Monday Nitro, where essentially I had the bright idea to watch every single episode of Monday Nitro. We're gonna stop in December of '98 because I'm not gonna torture myself. But I wanted to watch every single episode of Monday Nitro, all the pay-per-views, and do a podcast on each one.
Nice.
So we're about I think we've done 30 episodes now. So we're 30 weeks into that little project. So early 1996. And then the other podcast that we do, it's Operation Raw is War. Same concept. March of '97 to September of 2001, we're covering every single episode of Raw from that time period, all the pay-per-views. $1 a month gets you access to our Patreon, and we upload every single week. But I had the idea that I feel like that those are obviously time periods where everyone has a podcast about those shows, especially those pay-per-view events. But as a kid who didn't watch a lot of pay-per-views because no one was going to pay money for us to watch a pay-per-view, and if I could get it on the Scrambled channel, I could, but as a kid who the bulk of my wrestling watching as a child was the weekly television and was the weekly television of those shows. So to kind of have all of that stuff obviously easily available in 2020 because of the network, I just really wanted to cover the weekly TV aspect of it. And we'd do the pay-per-views as well, but not too many people have broken down every single episode of Raw from, that covers right before the Attitude Era, and then kind of the fallout. And it's just it's something that we both really love doing. I don't know how I found someone who loves wrestling and is insane about it as I am, but that's definitely our favorite thing to do is to watch wrestling and talk about it. And so many of you guys already have pledged and support and listen and give us great feedback. But that's our big project right now that we're doing, and it'll take a few years to knock all that out, but it's been fun. Having seen all of that stuff multiple times, it's great. But going through it with kind of like a fine-tooth comb and really picking out the details of what made it great or what didn't make it great has been really, really fun.
Yeah, man, that's good stuff. I don't remember exactly when we kind of all met online, me, you, and Caitlin, but all of a sudden it was just like just a real fun account to interact with. Real positive, real fun. So I recommend it to everybody out there because y'all are great, and I've enjoyed sitting here talking with you. And,
Yeah, man. Anybody who I'm sure most of the pals listening to this already follows, but at the Rumble Ramble on Twitter, you can get pretty much everything there. Our website, our Patreon, everything is linked from there. But we do a lot of live tweeting of the shows, and we do try to have a good time with it. That's one thing about going through wrestling from that particular time period, as in depth as we are, is you realize that it's never ever really been that great. Professional wrestling, especially weekly television. So that kind of mindset of just like, hey, some of this stuff's going to be good and we'll talk about it and we'll have fun with it, and some of this stuff's not going to be good and we'll mention it and then try to move on and not harp on it too much. Not to mention there are plenty of accounts that if something bad happens, we'll let you know.
Yeah, exactly. You got that right. All right, man.
And well, as soon as you get those photographs taken of the rest of your collection, man, we'll tweet them out and we'll do it again.
Sounds good. I appreciate you sitting here and shooting the breeze with me about this stuff, and hope everybody who's listening enjoyed.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for letting me do it, and thanks for talking about it with me. It was fun.
Yes, sir.
All right, man.